Today we ask, is age a big part of the problem for the New York Islanders? We'll take a look at that. We'll preview tonight's game against the Canucks. And we have our weekly farm report on all things Bridgeport Islanders. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. And you can also hear us now on SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just do a search for Locked On Islanders. We have got a busy show ahead of us, but first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, maybe a comment about something we discussed or a topic you'd like us to talk about on a future episode, send us an email to lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Locked On Isles. And you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all season long. And I am live tweeting during every Islanders home and road game. So join me for instant insight and analysis. And it's great to talk Isles hockey with my listeners and viewers, game time or anytime. And, you know, just a little reminder, Islanders playing tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern time in Vancouver. So obviously the usual midnight Eastern time premiere for the show. Well, that's not when we're going to be broadcasting. Probably figure about an hour after the game ends, the show will go live. And don't forget, with the Islanders playing the Canucks at 10 o'clock Eastern time tonight, you can catch every minute of the game with an Islanders hometown broadcast on SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Islanders. Got to ask this question, and I hate to ask this question, but is age catching up to the New York Islanders? And, you know, this sort of analysis was inspired by some of your comments and emails and, listening to my audience and also obviously watching every game this team has played so far this season. And look, we've already talked, everydayers know, we have talked about this team, even over the offseason. This team needs to get younger, faster, and more skilled. And I think younger and faster are kind of intertwined, not exclusively, but obviously in general, a team that has a lot of 20-somethings is going to generally be faster than a team with a lot of 30-somethings. But again, you could have slow 20-somethings on your roster as well. But my point is this. You look up and down the Islanders roster, and there are just a lot of players on this team who are, for lack of a nicer way to put it, stereotypically on the wrong side of 30. And that's difficult when you sort of analyze everything. Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, J.G. Pajot, Kyle Palmieri, Casey Cizikas, Cal Clutterbuck, Matt Martin, all of them 30 or older. And, Scotty Mayfield, now 30 or over, Semyon Varlamov, 30 or older. You start to add all of that up, and yeah, it may be an issue. I don't think that this team is too old to compete. I don't believe that as of right now. But I do believe that age has some effects on teams and on players. First of all, obviously, the older you get, the more likely you are to get injured. And then the longer it takes you to recover from those injuries. And second of all, the older players, we know how badly this team has played in the third period. And, this is a veteran team full of professionals. It's not like I don't think these guys are in shape, but are they starting to wear down a little bit in third periods because of their age? I don't think that's a big part of the problem, but it might be the problem or a small part of the problem. And then one other thing. All hockey players at some point hit a wall, whether it's, at the age of 30, 34, 35, it depends on the role you play and what skills you need in order to be effective as a hockey player. So, for some people who rely extensively on their speed, when they lose that half a step, the best part of their game could all of a sudden be history. And, that has to concern people without question. Other people, physically, they wear down. You may play a very, you may be, let's say, a fourth line player, and your job is to hit people, to check. And, look at Cal Clutterbuck. And I'm not saying age is the reason for Cal Clutterbuck's performance this year. I don't think Clutter has been bad necessarily. But he is officially the all-time hits leader in the National Hockey League. Eventually, throwing all those hits, receiving hits, being in those, situations game after game, year after year, it does take a toll on your body. And whether you lose a half a step or you get a little gun shy or you're just not as effective as a result of all of the things that are going on, you lose it. A lot of people have speculated about Anders Lee. 14 games right now, 1 goal, 1 assist, -6, not getting the job done up to his expectations. But Lee was never fleet of foot. That wasn't his game. But, maybe when you're not that fast, if you start to lose that half a step, do you fall below a certain threshold where all of a sudden your effectiveness goes down because you're not able to get into the right position by that little half a step like you used to a couple of years ago? All of these things, I think, may be small factors. But again, when you add up the number of players who are on the quote unquote wrong side of 30, when you start to add all of that up, you may get a situation where, again, I think age is a small factor in this team's struggles, but not a major factor in the team's struggles. And I think the speed aspect of it and the skill aspect of it have more to do with it than age, but I'm not saying age has nothing to do with it. And, got an email from Paul B. He didn't say where he was from, but hey, Gil, first time commenting on your podcast, longtime Islander fan who had been fortunate in seeing the first cup, section 303, K13 and 14 at the Coliseum, had full season tickets for 7 years and partials for 5 years after. The product after that time was sketchy and well-intentioned but terrible management has made this franchise unwatchable. 2 appearances in the semis with a veteran team that was offensively challenged and finally played out with unwatchable, boring, losing hockey. When will the owners realize that nothing is forever and the folks making on-ice decisions have had their day in the sun? Truly sad. This has to be tough for you rehashing the same issues over and over. I hope I can see my favorite team become relevant before I move on to whatever. Best of luck to you, Gil. Paul B. And I think, well, first of all, thank you, Paul, for the kind words about the podcast. And, I share a lot of that history. And I too hope that this team figures out what they have to do in order to get back on track. And I do think some changes need to be made. Go back to yesterday's show to hear a little bit more of that analysis. And again, feel free on YouTube to weigh in on our poll question about who you feel is most at fault for this team's slow start. All right, we have got a lot more to get to on today's show. We're going to preview tonight's game in Vancouver. Remember, it's a TNT game at 10 o'clock Eastern time. So we'll have a full preview of that. We'll also have our weekly farm report. And for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a player who was only briefly an Islander, but who you may know better as a goalie for the New Jersey Devils. Let's see if you can guess who that is. All right. All that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Bo Horvat could score 50 goals. The Islanders could hoist the Stanley Cup. And you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Barzal or Sorokin or Ovechkin or McKinnon will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in any given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Islander fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you could start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. So tonight, the New York Islanders going to head out to Vancouver. But before we get to that preview, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. That includes Locked On NHL, when I host that every Monday and co-host the Friday edition. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, Islanders, Canucks in Vancouver. Again, 10 o'clock Eastern time. The TV broadcast is on TNT if you don't get that, or if you prefer to hear the Islanders announcers. Remember, this game, you can catch every minute of the Islanders' hometown radio broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just do a search for Islanders. So let's talk about the Canucks, because this game is not going to be easy. And the Islanders have to, fans have to hope that this Islanders team that very often does raise their game against good teams can do that. But boy, Vancouver right now, 11-3-1 on the season. So 23 points in 15 games. They are talented and they are getting it done on both sides of the ice. What do I mean? Well, right now, the Canucks have the most goals out of all 32 teams in the National Hockey League. They are also fourth in the league in goals against. Their power play, third in the league, scoring at 31.6% efficiency. The penalty kill is a little below average, 19th in the league, only 78%. But just to give a comparison between these two teams, the Islanders right now are having difficulty, as all Islander fans certainly know, at putting pucks in the net. The Islanders are 31st or next to last in the league in shooting percentage as a team at 7.5%. The Canucks are number one in the league in shooting percentage, 15.1%. So yeah, the Canucks are scoring at double the rate of the New York Islanders. Oh, by the way, Canucks coming off a 5-2 win in Montreal, and they have won 4 of their last 5. How are they getting it done? Well, how about Brock Besser? 12 goals, 18 points in 15 games. Keep in mind, though, that he is not even leading the team in points, although he is leading the team in goals. JT Miller, 9 goals, 23 points. Quinn Hughes, 5 goals, 23 points. And Elias Pettersson, 7 goals, 25 points in 15 games. This team is just hitting on all cylinders. And remember, just a year ago, this franchise seemed lost, and they traded away some guy. What was his name? Oh, yeah, Bo Horvat. And, they did not make the playoffs. Here they are, near the top of the league standings. They're getting great goaltending. Thatcher Demko is the starter. He has started 10 of the 15 games. The goals against average, 1.96 and a .935 save percentage. Now, we're probably going to see Thatcher Demko because Casey DeSmith, who is the backup, played against Montreal and got the win. DeSmith, by the way, 4-0-1 in between the pipes. The goals against average, 267. The save percentage, 916. The line combinations, Elias Pettersson, Ilya Mikheyev, and Andrei Kuzmenko are the top pairing. JT Miller, Phil DiGiuseppe, and Brock Besser are the second line. Pius Suter, Dakota Joshua, and Connor Garland are the third trio. And then, some familiar names here with Teddy Bluger centering Anthony Beauvillier and Sam Lafferty. Bo on the fourth line right now for the Vancouver Canucks. And, Anthony Beauvillier in 15 games, 2 goals, 6 points, and he is a +6. So it'll be good to see Beauvillier back. The defense pairing, Quinn Hughes and Philip Roenick are the top pairing. Carson Soucy and Tyler Myers, the second duo. And then Ian Cole and Noah Ulson are the third. We mentioned the goaltenders, Demko and DeSmith. Tucker Poolman right now on IR and unavailable. Obviously, this game will be emotional for one Bo Horvat as he returns to Vancouver for the first time since he was traded. And, it's going to be a big deal for him facing a lot of his former teammates and really just, going back to Vancouver after spending so many years there, being the captain there. It will be a big deal for him. And hopefully he has a big game. You got to figure Anthony Beauvillier will also be stoked to be playing against the Islanders. Keys to the game for the Islanders. First of all, you need a 60-minute effort. Let's cut through all the other stuff. This team is not good enough to get away with playing just 2 periods. Very few teams in the NHL are. The Islanders need a 60-minute effort. They also have to stay out of the penalty box. This team has a lethal power play, so can't take those lazy penalties. They cut down on them until the third period, at least, against Edmonton, but then couldn't kill penalties. So stay out of the box. Don't give the power play too many opportunities. And clamp down. The way the Islanders played against the Oilers in the first 2 periods, when Edmonton just had 13 shots on goal and precious few high danger chances, that's what this team needs to do against Vancouver. And it's what they need to do most nights in order to win. Can they do it? And can they do it for 60 minutes? That's another issue. And keep in mind, Adam Pelech and Scott Mayfield, they're playing, but they're not 100%. Not to make excuses, but clearly they are not 100% as of right now, and they are playing through the pain. Hopefully the Islanders will make a good showing. You don't want this losing streak to reach 6. That would be just not good, to say the least. And let's hope that this team figures it out. All right, we have got more to get to on today's show. When we come back, we will have our weekly farm report on all things Bridgeport Islanders, plus our Islanders birthday of the day. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. We spend a lot of time talking together, you and I. We get fired up together on wins and losses, who starts and who sits, and I'm thankful for the connection that we have. But today, I want our chat to be a little more personal. I just learned that you can get a 1-year supply on ED medications. You realize what that means? Bring on extended travel, bring on the next natural disaster or supply chain issue. You're covered, my friend. You don't need to worry about whether or not you can refill your generics for Cialis or Viagra. This is possible because of our friends at Jace Medical. Go online right now at jacemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medications. Remember to use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount as well. A verified customer said, "I am thankful for this service. Supply chain issues had caused me to cut pills in half to have it. I ordered most of my daily meds with a year's supply. I also ordered the antibiotic kit, and I feel secure now." If you or someone you love could get some peace of mind by having a year's supply of any daily medication, go to jacemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. Remember, use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase. That's Jace Medical, JASE Medical.com. And again, everybody, Locked On has launched its first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, it's time for our weekly farm report where we talk all things Bridgeport Islanders. And again, kind of a mixed bag down in Bridgeport. They've played 3 games since our last farm report. First one, a 3-0 loss to the Hartford Wolfpack. Hartford, Friday night, getting a shutout in this game. Dylan Garand making all the stops, 37 saves in this one. Jakub Skarek made 26 saves for Bridgeport, but when you shoot 37 times, it's not easy to get shut out. But I guess it's kind of familiar to fans of the New York Islanders that the team had a little trouble scoring. But we had some better news on Saturday as Ruslan Ishkakov had 2 goals, including the overtime game winner, as Bridgeport managed to blank the Springfield beat the Springfield Thunderbirds 2-1 in overtime. Samuel Asselin assisting on both of the goals. Ken Appleby, 20 saves. That's his second straight win to improve his record to 2-2 on the season. So that made for an even weekend. And then Tuesday, the 10:30 a.m. matinee against the Syracuse Crunch. That one does not actually work. The Islanders fell behind early, had 3 goals in the third period, but still fell short to the Crunch by a score of 5-4. Cole Bardreau with a goal and an assist. His goal in the third period. Brian Pinho and Sam Asselin also scoring. Jeff Kubiak had his first goal of the season. Jakub Skarek only 21 saves in this one, but the Islanders fall to the Crunch by a score of 5-4. That one certainly frustrating. And, you just look at this team right now. Ishkakov, 10 points, 4 goals. The 4 goals ties him with Asselin for the team lead. The 10 points is first. Brian Pinho with 7 points, 2 goals, 5 assists. 4 goals, 2 assists for Asselin. Kyle McLean, 2 goals, 4 assists. The leading defenseman in points right now, Dennis Cholowski. Meanwhile, Ken Appleby, a 2.27 goals against average, a 918 save percentage. Jakub Skarek, 3.02 goals against average an .887 save percentage, and he's 2-5-1 on the year. Busy schedule coming up this weekend. Right now, Bridgeport 7th place, by the way. Right now, Bridgeport 8th place through 12 games, although they do have a game in hand on 7th place Lehigh Valley. They're 4-7-1 on the season and definitely need to take a step forward in order to get things done. The schedule for the weekend, 3 games, 1 on the road, 2 at home. Friday night, 7 o'clock on the road at Hershey to take on the Bears. Then the Bears come to Bridgeport Saturday, 7 o'clock Eastern time start. And then Sunday, the Providence Bruins, always tough, a 3 o'clock matinee in Bridgeport. You can check out some of the Islanders stars today if you want to head up to Bridgeport for either of those games this weekend. Or, of course, you can watch them on AHL TV. But 3 big games for the Bridgeport Islanders this weekend, and hopefully they can get back on track. Scoring goals seems to, again, be a problem, and it seems to be organization-wide. All right, time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And, today is the 59th birthday of former Islanders goalie Chris Terreri, drafted in the 5th round by the Devils back in 1983, spent 3 years at Providence College before heading into the Devils organization and made his NHL debut in 1986-87. Played also with the San Jose Sharks and Chicago Blackhawks, had a second stint with the Devils, and then finished out the 2000-2001 season playing 8 games for the New York Islanders, had a .244 goals against average and a .912 save percentage. So Terreri, again, better known as a Devil, but briefly was a member of the Islanders. We go back and look at one of his better games with the Isles, March 14th, 2001, at the old Mellon Arena in Pittsburgh. Obviously, Chris Terreri, the goalie for the Islanders, J.S. Auban, the goalie for Pittsburgh. And in this game, the Islanders are outshot 34-31, but 33 saves made by our Islander birthday of the day, Chris Terreri, and the Islanders beat the Penguins 3-1. A power play goal by Mario Lemieux, the only goal for Pittsburgh. Tim Connolly, Dave Scatchard, and Eric Cairns with the empty netter to clinch the win for the Islanders. So Chris Terreri, a goalie, only 5'9", 155 pounds, but back in the late 80s and into the 90s, that wasn't as big a deal, I guess. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day, everydayers. Tomorrow on the show, we will have our key takeaways from the game against Vancouver. We'll preview the game against Seattle, and we will have a bonus crossover episode with Erica L. Ayala of Locked On Kraken. So definitely look for that. And, hopefully this team finds a way to get back on track. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.